I'm BC Begley, and these are your news headlines for October 19th of 2022. Alarmed by rapid price increases, the Fed looks at raising rates again. Federal Reserve officials have coalesced around a plan to raise interest rates by 3/4 of a point next month as policymakers grow alarmed by the staying power of rapid price increases and increasingly worried that inflation is now feeding on itself. Turkeys are 73% higher in price than last year and might stay that way through Thanksgiving. The ongoing spread of bird flu will likely affect the price and availability of turkeys this Thanksgiving. Right now, the price per pound of an 8 to 16 pound turkey is $1.99, up from $1.15 last year, according to the USDA data. This is a 73% price increase. Steele dossier source acquitted on all counts in Durham Russian probe. After about 9 hours of deliberations, a federal jury acquitted Russian policy researcher Igor Danishenko on Tuesday on 4 felony false statement charges brought as part of Durham's probe of misinformation that triggered the FBI probe of former President Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. United States intercepts Russian bombers off Alaskan coast. The U.S. military tracked and intercepted 2 Russian bomber pilots flying off the Alaskan coast on Monday, according to the North American Aerospace Defense Command. The 2 Russian Tu-95 Bear H bomber aircraft were, quote, entering and operating within the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone, the release explained, and remained in international airspace and did not enter American or Canadian sovereign airspace. Mysterious United Kingdom Defense Secretary trip to Washington, D.C. amid escalation fears. Defense Secretary Ben Wallace is on a hastily arranged visit to Washington, D.C. to talk with his counterpart and White House officials about, quote, shared security concerns, including Ukraine and Russia, a source and official said. The secretive last-minute nature of the trip and a comment by the Second Defense Minister James Heppy, who said the conversations that Mr. Wallace would be having on Tuesday were beyond belief, suggested particularly sensitive and serious issues would be discussed. The BBC prepares secret scripts for blackouts. The BBC has prepared secret scripts that could be read on air if energy shortages cause blackouts or the loss of gas supplies this winter. The scripts, seen by The Guardian, set out how the corporation would reassure the public in the event that a major loss of power causes mobile phone networks, internet access, banking systems, or traffic lights to fail across England, Wales, and Scotland. Over 1,000 Ukrainian towns and villages have no power. Blackouts have struck more than 1,000 towns and villages inside Ukraine after a series of Russian attacks. President Volodymyr Zelensky said about 30% of Ukraine's power stations have been knocked out in the Blitz. Sections of Kiev have been left without power and water following further blasts that happened today. Sweden's new government scraps feminist foreign policy. Sweden's new right-wing government said on Tuesday it was ditching the country's pioneering, quote, feminist foreign policy, launched by the left wing back in 2014, saying the label could be counterproductive. Elon Musk warns of World War III. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has made a grim prediction about the escalating violence in Ukraine, saying Vladimir Putin could soon be preparing for nuclear warfare after he allegedly spoke to the Russian president. German prosecutors search Deutsche Bank headquarters in tax fraud probe. German prosecutors have searched the headquarters of Deutsche Bank in connection with an ongoing investigation of the multi-billion-euro tax fraud scheme known as Cum-Ex, Deutsche Bank said on Tuesday. China's military is trying to recruit ex-British Air Force pilots for training and intelligence, the United Kingdom says. China's military is headhunting ex-British Air Force pilots for their training skills and expertise and the United Kingdom government is working to stop it, the UK's Ministry of Defence said on Tuesday. Some 30 former British military pilots are believed to have gone to work for China to train personnel in its People's Liberation Army, according to a BBC report on the topic, which was published on Tuesday. Russian cosmonaut runs over colleague after returning home from space. After 3 missions in space, Russian cosmonaut Oleg Artemyev ran into difficulty on Earth when he drove over a colleague on a dark road just outside of Moscow, less than 3 weeks after returning from his latest orbiting mission. President Biden to announce release of up to 15 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. President Joe Biden will announce an additional release of crude oil from Strategic Petroleum Reserves on Wednesday in the range of 10 million to 15 million barrels, according to sources familiar with the plan, which relayed the information to CNBC. The grave of Father Christmas has been discovered under a church in Turkey. Archaeologists believe they may have uncovered the tomb of St. Nicholas underneath an ancient church inside of Turkey. Researchers claim the remains of the holy figure, who is the inspiration for Santa Claus, were recently discovered under a 6th century building more than 1,600 years after his death. McCarthy says there will be no blank check for Ukraine if the GOP wins the majority. House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy warned on Tuesday that Republicans will not write a blank check for the Ukraine if they win back the House majority, reflecting his party's ongoing skepticism about financial support for Kiev as it battles Russia's invasion. A rare but dangerous flesh-eating bacteria is infecting Florida residents. Parts of Florida hit the hardest by Hurricane Ian are seeing nearly double the normal number of infections from a flesh-eating bacteria that thrives in brackish floodwaters. According to the Florida Department of Health, the state has seen 65 cases of infections and 11 deaths from the bacteria in 2022. Lee County, where Ian made landfall on September 28th as a Category 4 hurricane, accounts for 45% of the cases. Death toll from Russian warplane crash into city has now risen to 15. The death toll from the crash of a Russian warplane into a Russian city rose to 15 on Tuesday, including 3 people who died when they jumped from a 9-story apartment building to escape a massive blaze, authorities said. A Su-34 bomber came down Monday in the Sea of Azov port city of Yeysk after one of its engines caught fire during takeoff for a training mission, the Russian Defense Ministry has said. California man charged in 3 slayings linked to serial killer. Prosecutors on Tuesday charged a Northern California man with fatally shooting 3 men whom police have said were among 6 victims slain by a serial killer over the past year and a half. Wesley Brownlee, 43, was arrested on Saturday on suspicion of killing 6 men and wounding a woman in a series of shootings dating back to April 2021. Brownlee, a truck driver who had recently moved to Stockton from Oakland, was only charged in the 3 most recent slayings in Stockton. The United Kingdom's Prime Minister Liz Truss says she's a fighter, not a quitter, as lawmakers plot to oust her. British Prime Minister Liz Truss insisted on Wednesday that she was a fighter, not a quitter, as she was grilled by parliamentarians for the first time since being forced to scrap almost all of her flagship fiscal policies. The most powerful gamma-ray burst ever seen could help reveal how black holes are born. All eyes are on the source of the record-breaking gamma-ray burst that lit up the sky last week. On October the 9th, a beam of light more energetic than astronomers had ever seen zipped past our planet, temporarily blinding detectors on several NASA satellites. The beam came from a gamma-ray burst, the most energetic type of explosion known to occur in the universe, which is believed to be accompanied by the birth of some black holes.